Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I'm here today for another Monday This and That video. And if you are new, these are just the kind of videos where I talk about all different topics. A lot of times I'm answering questions or leading you back to older videos I have that are more detailed single topic videos, and sometimes just talking about whatever strikes my fancy for the day. So let's get busy on the topics of today. So first thing I want to cover, so I don't forget, is the latest quilt square I just got in. And what makes this one special is that it's made from vintage fabrics from the 50s and 60s. So quite beautiful. I'm loving it. I'm loving all the different quilt squares I'm getting. And if you're totally new and you don't know about what's going on, well, I have a collaboration I'm putting together of a Rain Country crazy quilt, and anybody who wants to be a part and is able to be a part is sending me 10-inch completed quilt squares. So I'll link to the video down below where I give more detail about the specifications for that. So if you're wanting to be a part, I don't know how long this is going to go. I'm just trying to get right now about 48 squares to make more of a lap quilt, something we can use when we're sitting in an easy chair or a couch, just relaxing. But also something I can have out and show off to company when they come by. And once I get it put all together, I'll show you what it looks like. But that'll probably be quite a ways down the road because I got to get all the squares in first. Then I have to map it all out, then have the time to put them together. And it's been crazy, especially now. I'm watching both of my grandbabies 3 days a week, both of them on the same days. So Marlene was kind enough to make sure she arranged it so that I'm watching the babies on the same day, so I'm not watching babies all week long. So that works out pretty good. Now let's talk about the vegetables coming in. So I did can up some of the zucchini, like I said in that video that came out this past week. That was one of the videos that I actually just shot, quickly edited, and then rearranged all my videos, pushing some even farther out. Most of my videos are at least 3 weeks out, but some can be 4, 5, and 6 weeks out, depending on if I do videos like that. Generally speaking, I'm pretty happy with it. We did open up a jar and try it that night because I don't want to can up a bunch and find out we hate it. And the zucchini was pretty soft, as I would have expected, but zucchini gets pretty soft when you cook it anyway, and I didn't mind it. I thought it was pretty tasty as a side dish. What I do recommend is if you try this, start small like I did. I used my real small canner that I finally got to use. We bought it at a garage sale a few years ago. We only paid 10 bucks for it, but I thought it would be nice to have for real small jobs so I don't have to heat up my big canner, and it was perfect. So I found out that that canner, by the way, holds 4 quart jars, 5 pint jars like this, the wide mouth, and then 7 of the regular mouth pint jars. So anyway, I do recommend using the firmest, youngest zucchini if you choose to can it like this. This is pressure canning, by the way, because obviously it's going to hold up better in the canning process. To be honest, I think this was a bigger zucchini that wasn't quite as firm. I don't recall. So this time I'm going to make sure I pay attention. I just picked a couple of zucchinis that aren't real old. The Black Beauties can get pretty big and are nice and firm. So these are the ones I'm going to try canning up. I'm only going to do another 5 jars. So I'll be using that small canner again because I don't want a ton of this. It's just something to help break everything up, because I like to have a lot of my green beans put up this way because it's my favorite way for green beans is to have them canned. I've done frozen. Frozen is good. I don't have any problem with it. I just like the canned green beans better when it comes to that. So on to that topic, I now have enough green beans. I have more than enough. But I need 16 if I'm going to do the wide mouth pint jars. 16 of those to fill up my canner, my bigger canner. So I have enough now. I'm going to get those canned up. I still have beans coming in, and this is a dual purpose bean. So this is mostly the runner beans that I'm growing. Once I get to the point that I feel pretty good about the amount of green beans I have canned up, then I just let the rest of them mature, and then I either use them as a dry bean, for chilies and soups and stuff, or seed that I'm going to save, or even seed that I put up on my store, because I do sell quite a bit of the seed on my store for the beans, because the runner beans, just generally speaking, are my favorite ones to grow because they do best for us here in rain country. They heavy producers, and the fact that I can use them in various different ways. So you do have to pick them young though, when they're only like maybe that big at the longest and about that wide. If you wait till they're too big, then you just might as well let them, because I've had some that I missed that are already that long and about that wide, and they start to get too tough on the outside. So those are the ones you just leave and let them finish maturing, and then use them for the dry bean or for seed for planting for next year. So what I did differently this year, though, this is one of the things I wanted to bring up, and I've talked about canning beans before. I always go for the easiest method when it comes to canning. So I raw pack everything pretty much. There's very few things that I pack that's not raw. And in this case, what I do as I'm picking the beans and I'm waiting until I get enough to run a full canner, because I don't want to run that canner unless it's full, because it takes a lot of energy. I use propane to do my canning, and I do that outside. But what I've been doing was putting them in the refrigerator and letting them build up in the refrigerator until I get 16 jars. But because the beans started coming in right at the same time we were doing the family reunion here at our property, and there was a lot going on, and I kind of needed my fridge space too. I didn't want them to sit in the refrigerator for too long. 7 days seems to be the max you want to go if you're going to do that. So I actually stuck a lot of them in the freezer. So obviously though, before I can these, I have to let them all come up to at least room temperature. And once I do that, then I'm going to, because I'll be doing that later today, then I'll be adding a little bit of salt, pouring some of the filtered rainwater that we collect right over that until it's filled up, making sure you debubble it, get all the bubbles out. It's actually called bubbling, but that doesn't make sense because you're trying to get the bubbles out. And then pressure can. So for the green beans, I go 75 minutes, and I use 10 pounds of pressure because of our elevation. And anyway, it's an easy process, and I don't do anything fancy. I know a lot of people like to can up a lot of fancy stuff, throw a lot of different things into the stuff that they make, but I like to keep it simple, not just to make it quick and hurry up and get things put up because I'm so busy, but also because it's going to depend on how I'm going to use things. I might not always want it to taste the same, so I like to keep things fairly bland, and that way I can add, when I go to make whatever dish I want, I can add whatever I want to it at that time. So that's why I do things that way. I do the same thing with tomatoes. Now, I used to can up all my tomatoes, but starting last year, I decided I'm not going to do that anymore. I did go ahead and do a batch last year, but that was the last batch I'm going to do when it comes to tomatoes. And I'll explain why in a bit. But when I can tomatoes, I don't can whole tomatoes. I don't do any of that. I always process them so that they're ready to go into making a sauce. Because my main purpose of canning tomatoes right from the beginning was for using in various sauces. So I will make a batch of salsa and can that up. That's the one thing that I'll do different, because, well, that's salsa. It's a specific thing, and it gets used in a lot of stuff. But most of my tomatoes I would can up and keep it simple for the same reason, because they get used in my Italian sauces, for whether it be pizza, spaghetti, ravioli, anything I'm going to use an Italian red sauce in. I also use that as a base when I'm making my homemade chili or my homemade barbecue sauce, which I do have a video on. I do not remember if I have a video out on chili, by the way, but when I do chili, I usually do it in the summertime when I'm doing a lot of canning, make a huge pot of chili, and then we'll have some for dinner, and I'll can the rest up so that we have an instant meal. Chili is one of those things we like to have as an instant meal if life gets too busy and I can't whip something up from scratch. I can pull out our fast food, which is something that wasn't made quickly, but something I prepared ahead of time and canned, and it's just ready to go. All we got to do is heat it up. So anyway, that's one of the many things tomatoes get used in. So I did, if you saw my latest garden video, which was the greenhouse, it was just a couple days after that I had tomatoes that I shot that tomatoes started turning red. But actually none of the tomatoes I'm growing this year are actually red. They're all either black or purple. So these are all the purple ones, but the thing is the black ones and the purple ones They all look the same to me. And here's how I preserve my tomatoes and why. So since it's all used for sauce anyway, why am I wasting jar space canning them up? So instead, I dehydrate my tomatoes by processing them in the blender, same way, pouring them into my trays, which this year now, I'm so glad to have the silicone trays. And I probably will use the Kasori for that this year. And the nice thing about that is I can just do that as they're coming in. I don't have to wait until I have enough to can up. And I spread it out on there, and then I just, once they're dry, I just pull it off the sheet, I break them up into flakes, and then I put them in a jar and vacuum seal. And I have quite a few jars from previous years back there, which is wonderful. And I'm going to keep doing that. I like to stay ahead on my tomatoes, and then I can use those for sauce. All I got to do is add water. And some of you are going to ask why I do not powder them. Well, if you powder them, yes, they will take up less room. But if you powder them, you definitely have to vacuum seal. If you do not vacuum seal and vacuum seal between every time you open that jar and take some out for whatever you're going to use it for, if you do not re-vacuum seal it, then it will turn to a brick in there. Tomato is one of the things that will do that. But by vacuum sealing it, you will keep it from turning to a brick if it's already in powder form. But if I have it in flakes, when I start working through a jar, I don't have to vacuum seal between each use. Yes, the flakes will take up more room than the powder, but I have the convenience of not having to vacuum seal it every single time. But still, the flakes and the having the tomatoes, even in the flaked form rather than powdered, takes up far less space in the pantry, uses up far less jars than canning. Now, I do sometimes will chop up the tomatoes if I want to add tomato pieces. I will chop them up and then spread a little bit of oil onto my trays and then dehydrate the tomatoes like that. Those are great for if you want to add the pieces into soups and stuff. So you want chunks of tomatoes. That's great. And I still have some back there. I don't use that as much, but they are nice to have on hand. So anyway, I'll be getting started on that today. And then the one thing I wanted to bring up that I'm going to be doing now, you might notice these lids are gold. And this was my first time trying the Superb canning lids. Now, the thing I like about these is, I talked about in a previous video, is that they are much thicker. They also have a thicker gummy part around there, the sealing part, and they are made in the USA. I like those aspects better than this other one. These were all sent to me free by the companies, were the 4 jars. Now, I've heard people say they were really happy with them, with the 4 jars canning lids, that they've worked great for them. I haven't tried canning with them yet, so what I'm going to do is half this batch of beans I'm going to do, even these are just old canning lids on here. I just grabbed to put on there for now, but I'm going to switch them out. For half of them I'm going to do the Superb lids, and half of them I'm going to do the 4 jars lids, and then I'll give you an update on those and just let you know what I think. Now, one thing you want to know about the 4 jars lids is they might be great. And the company might be here in the US, but they are all made in China. But I wouldn't be surprised if all of the ball and curd jar lids are now made in China as well. But the Superb brand is a very new brand, and it is all made in the US, and they are thicker. So I think you would be able to, as long as they work great, I think you would be able to use those again and again, not just for vacuum sealing, but for canning. Because even your ball lids and your cur lids you can reuse for canning if they're in good shape. Some people say no, don't do that, but I've experimented and they've worked great for me. All the lids that I've used, and they're still in great shape, I've used them for canning, and I haven't had any issues, and I've had several people share with me that too. So yeah, that's what I'll be doing, and hopefully next week I can give you, in the next This and That video next Monday, I'll give you an update on both of those lids and let you know what I think. But anyway, for the zucchini, it worked great. I would say I actually ended up doing 5 jars when I realized I had enough room. And I did have 1 jar that lost its seal, but that was my fault. So I can't blame the lid for that. The other ones, they did seal up great. And they make a louder, because they are a thicker lid, they make a louder pop sound when you hear them seal. It kind of surprises you at first, because it's like, whoa, you're not used to hearing that. Oh, and then back to the zucchini, I will also still be dehydrating up a lot of zucchini. By the way, if you didn't see that video that came out last week about preserving zucchini. I gave you several different ideas. That was mostly about preserving. Don't forget, I have a video I did last year about many uses for zucchini, because every year I think of more, such as making like a grilled cheese sandwich using the zucchini as a bread replacement, using it as a rice replacement, using it to make ice cream, using it to make using it mixed with other nuts to make a zucchini nut milk, all kinds of different things you can do with that, even making a chocolate pudding. So please go check out that video. I'll link to it down below. I'll link to both of those down below. The one that just came out last week and the one that came out last year. If you're still trying to figure out what to do with all that zucchini, how to either preserve it or how to just use it up right away. And now on to some other topics that have nothing to do with food preservation, but I just noticed Patrick, I had to refill his little jar in the bathroom. This is Patrick's deodorant powder. So I need to make him a new jar. So I'm just letting you know, I do have a video recipe on how to make your own deodorant powder. And it's just, remember, any of my recipes are guidelines. You can always tailor things to suit you. But this is what he's been using for years. I have some too. I don't always use it. A lot of times I just use colloidal silver because it's a little easier and less messy to use. So anyway, yeah, colloidal silver is a great option, colloidal copper. They both will help kill bacteria that causes body odor, or you can use the powder like that, especially if you need something that has a little bit that helps absorb excess moisture. So that's what a lot of deodorants are, also antiperspirants, in the fact that they help to absorb moisture. But if it's an antiperspirant that prevents you from sweating, that's actually not good. You need to sweat. That's good for you. We're made to do that. So anyway, I'll link to that recipe down below. And then onto these little things here. You're probably wondering, why does she have toys sitting on her counter? Well, these just came in. So I bought for Jackson, instead of getting a standard baby pool, I actually bought a dog pool because I can fold it up and it's not inflatable, so I don't have to worry about it getting a hole in it or, popping. And it's just tougher. It's just made tougher all the way around. So I got that for Jackson for this summer so he could play in the pool. And he's got in it a little bit. He doesn't always like getting in there and getting wet, but on really hot days he doesn't mind. But I thought it would be fun for him to have a couple of toys that he could also play with in there that were specifically made for water. And so I got to looking around and I came across these. The first thing I saw was this little plane, a little seaplane. And the nice thing about any of these toys is they don't have to be used in the water. They can be used for surf or sand. And he loves planes. He's totally into planes right now. He loves construction vehicles too, but he's also lately been getting into planes. So I ordered this up, and I thought one thing that was especially cool about this brand that I realized when I got to looking into it is that it's still plastic, yes, but at least it's BPA and phthalate free, but it's made in the USA. That just really blew me away because it's so hard to find nice toys for kids that are actually made in the USA. So I was really thrilled with this, and I was looking at their other ones that they had. They had a couple other ones, and this one was more expensive, and I thought, well, I'll get the plane first and then I'll wait and see what I think about this. Well, then after I ordered the plane, I got from my honey program, which I have a video on that. You might, if you don't have honey yet, it's free to sign up and get that. And what I'll do is I'll link to the video I did on honey and how you can use it in the description box down below, and also my honey referral link. So again, it's free to sign up and you can save so much money and make money too. So anyway, what happened was, one of the benefits of having the honey account, if you're on Amazon, certain other places, if you've been looking at something, well, if it has a price drop, it'll notify you through email. So I got an email about this, and it had dropped over $7 for this set. And I'm like, okay, well, I was going to wait, but I'm going to go ahead and purchase it now because I fell in love with it. And the funny thing is this set came in before the plane. But this was more expensive because it had more parts to it. So because it has the little guys, it's got the captain, it's got the pilot, the helicopter, and all parts can be played with in the water. The helicopter doesn't float in the water though, like the plane or the boat does. And anyway, again, all made in the USA. So this set came in first, and Jackson fell in love with it. Unfortunately, the plane came in last night after his mom picked him up and took him home. So I can't wait till next week when he has a chance to play with this too, because he was absolutely loving this, especially the helicopter. He thought that was great. And him and Grandpa were playing with them together. They were having fun, not just in the pool. He was playing with it a little bit in the pool, pushing it back and forth, but also just running around the house with it. So he loved it. Anyway, I wanted to bring that up because, you know, if you're a parent or a grandparent and you're looking for toys that your kids might like that are actually made in the USA, well, here's some here. So I'm going to give you the links to these down below. All right, well, that's all I was going to talk about today. So I want to remind you, don't forget to open up the description box by clicking on either show more in all caps if you're on a computer, and if you're on some kind of smart device, it'll be over on this side, an arrow, a triangle, or maybe just the word more. You'll see it over here. You just touch that to open up the description box. So don't forget to check those out. And if you have anything you'd like to share with us how your garden's doing. What are you canning this week? Are you done canning for the season? I'm just getting into it because our garden stuff is so late this year, but it feels good to finally be able to start putting some stuff up and restocking my pantry back there. So please share with us what you're putting up right now and any ideas. What's your favorite way to put up zucchini, tomatoes, or beans, or whatever. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.